In a world where our phones keep us connected, what if a single message could sever those ties forever? Today, I will share with you 4 chilling true stories of people who vanished without a trace, mere moments after sending a text. These are not just tales of lost connections. They are haunting reminders of how quickly normalcy can dissolve into the unknown. Imagine receiving a message from a loved one only to discover they've disappeared into thin air moments later. How would you feel? Each story is a window into fear and uncertainty, blurring the lines between technology and terror. Prepare yourself, because what you're about to hear may forever alter the way you view your own interactions, your own messages. You might find yourself glancing at your phone a little differently, questioning the safety of those simple exchanges. The darkness lurking behind each text is more sinister than you could ever imagine. Are you ready to dive into the abyss of these mystery-laden tales? Hold your breath, and let's begin. I've always been a creature of habit. Every Saturday evening, I'd settle on the worn-out couch in our dimly lit living room, the flickering light from the old lamp casting dancing shadows on the walls. My mother would retreat to her bedroom, a sanctuary from the world, leaving me alone with the remnants of our family life. I remember the smell of the old vinyl records stacked haphazardly on the shelf, the faint aroma of dust and nostalgia filling the air. That particular Saturday, the wind howled against the cracked window, an ominous lullaby that sent shivers down my spine. I was scrolling through my phone, half-heartedly replying to messages from friends, when a notification popped up, an unknown number. The message was simple: "Are you home?" I felt a chill creep up my spine. I lived in a neighborhood where every face was familiar, yet this number was foreign, and the question sent my mind racing. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest, contemplating whether I should respond. Who could it be? A prankster? A neighbor? Or someone more sinister? I hesitated, a cold sweat forming on my brow. The world outside my window was cloaked in darkness, the silhouettes of trees swaying under the fierce wind, their branches clawing at the night sky like skeletal fingers. Just ignore it, I whispered to myself, but something gnawed at me. Curiosity can be a dangerous thing. I typed hesitantly. Who is this? My fingers trembled as I hit send, an inexplicable dread settling in the pit of my stomach. I waited, the silence around me amplifying the sound of my heartbeat. A reply came quickly. "I can see you." My breath hitched in my throat, and I instinctively glanced towards the window. The street was empty, shadows lurking in the corners of my vision. I felt exposed, like a moth caught in a spider's web, unable to escape the tightening threads of dread. I shot a quick glance at my mother's closed bedroom door, then back to my phone. "Stop playing around! Who is this?" I typed, more assertively this time, trying to mask the tremor in my hands. My third-grade teacher had always told me to be brave, to stand my ground, but this felt different. This felt wrong. "Let me in," the reply read. "I promise I won't hurt you." The words dripped with an unsettling familiarity, a beguiling tone that made my skin crawl. I felt a rise of nausea, my instincts screaming at me to run, to hide, but where could I go? The shadows in the room seemed to envelop me, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. Suddenly the lights flickered, and I could hear the unmistakable sound of footsteps outside, slow, deliberate, as if someone were pacing just beyond my door. Panic surged through me, and I jumped to my feet, my heart racing as adrenaline coursed through my veins. The footsteps stopped, and the wind howled louder, as if warning me to stay put, to do nothing. "Let me in," came the voice again, not through my phone, but from outside the door. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat, the hairs on my arms standing on end. It sounded like a woman. Her voice was sweet, almost inviting, yet laced with an undercurrent of menace that sent chills down my spine. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice trembling, struggling to maintain composure. There was silence for a heartbeat, then a soft laugh that seeped through the cracks of the door, sending shivers rattling through my bones. "I'm your friend," she said, as if we had shared secrets under a starlit sky. "I've been waiting for you." I turned back to my phone, my mind racing. Should I call for help? My mother? But what if I was overreacting? My heart sank as I thought about the taunts of my friends, how they'd laugh at me for being scared of a prank. "This isn't funny," I shouted, hoping to project confidence I didn't feel. "Open the door," she insisted, a slight edge of impatience creeping into her voice. "I don't want to hurt you, I just want to play." What kind of game was she suggesting? The knot in my stomach twisted tighter, and I felt a strange compulsion to comply, as if her words were a spell casting me into her web. I clenched my fists, fighting against the rising tide of fear. "I'm calling the cops," I yelled, my voice cracking. But the only reply was her laughter, a haunting melody that seemed to echo in the darkness surrounding me. I backed away from the door, glancing around the dim room, my eyes darting to every corner, every shadow. I could feel her presence, an invisible weight pressing against the air, smothering my senses. My heart raced as I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the coffee table. Suddenly the lights went out, plunging me into darkness. Panic erupted inside me, and I fumbled for my phone, lighting it up with a shaky hand. The soft glow illuminated the living room, but the shadows seemed deeper, more pronounced, twisting and curling like smoke. "Are you scared?" The voice whispered sweetly from the darkness, as if she were right beside me. I felt the bile rise in my throat. "No!" I protested, my voice wavering. "You're not real! You can't be real!" I forced myself to breathe, fighting against the suffocating fear wrapping around my chest. "Just let me in," she coaxed, her voice now dripping with a honeyed menace that made my skin prickle. "I won't hurt you, but you'll be alone if you don't." The cold chill of dread seeped into my bones. I was alone. Alone in the house. Alone with my thoughts. Alone with this entity that had woven itself into my life like a dark thread. I glanced over my shoulder at the door once more, the wood standing between us like a fragile barrier. The sound of claws scraping against the floor echoed in the silence, a soft, rhythmic scratching that tugged at my curiosity. Then I saw it. Just a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye. I swung my phone light toward the door, illuminating the cracked surface where it met the frame. And then I saw her, a face peering through the small gap at the bottom, her eyes wide and pleading, her features twisting in the dim light like a malignant reflection. I stumbled back, the light dimming at the edges as I felt my sanity slip away. "Open the door," she whispered again, this time with a desperate urgency. "You don't want to be alone. We can be friends. Just let me in." I backed away, the walls feeling like they were closing in around me. The wind howled outside, but the sound was lost to me in the cacophony of my racing heart. I was torn, caught between the need to flee and the twisted allure of her voice. As I stumbled over the furniture, my mind screamed. I couldn't let her in. I wouldn't. But the darkness pressed against me, and the walls seemed to pulse, vibrating with her whispers. "I'm here for you," she sang softly, "always." And just like that, the phone slipped from my hand, hitting the floor with a dull thud. The light flickered and died, plunging me into a suffocating darkness as a sense of inevitability washed over me. The last thing I heard before everything went black was her soft laugh, echoing endlessly, wrapping around me like the shadows, pulling me down into an abyss I couldn't escape. I remember the day distinctly, even though it was years ago. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the playground, where my brother and I used to play every afternoon. I was 12 then, a time when the world felt vast and mysterious. My brother Jason was 10, and we often sought out secret adventures right in our neighborhood. That day, however, was different. It started with a text message. I had just come home from school when my phone buzzed. It was from an unknown number. "Meet me at the old park. We need to talk." It was strange enough to send a shiver down my spine, but curiosity got the better of me. I glanced at Jason, who was engrossed in his video game, and made my way out the door, the fading light casting a warm glow on the pavement. The old park was a dilapidated space at the edge of our neighborhood. We had played there once, but after a series of unsettling incidents, strange noises, and a feeling of being watched, we had avoided it. As I approached, The air seemed to grow thicker, laden with an inexplicable tension. The trees whispered in the wind, their leaves rustling as if sharing secrets. "What am I doing?" I muttered under my breath, but it was too late to back out now. I reached the park and found myself standing in front of the rusted swing set, its creaking chains echoing in the eerie stillness. My heart pounded as I scanned the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of whoever had sent the message. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky and uncertain. A chill ran down my spine as the wind picked up, sending a flock of birds into the sky in a flurry of feathers. Then suddenly, I saw a figure standing at the far end of the park. A girl, maybe a year older than me, with long dark hair obscuring her face. She stood motionless, just beyond the reach of the dying light. My breath quickened, uncertainty battling with the curiosity that had brought me there in the first place. "Who are you?" I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. The girl lifted her head slightly and my heart dropped. Her eyes were hollow, devoid of any emotion, as if they were two dark voids. "You need to come closer," she said, her voice a mere whisper that seemed to float through the air, beckoning me. There was something unsettling about her tone, a mix of urgency and despair that tugged at me. I took a cautious step forward, drawn by an invisible force, yet every nerve in my body screamed at me to turn back. "Why? What do you want?" I asked, but the question felt inadequate, as if I was sinking in quicksand. "You have to understand," she replied, taking a step forward, and in that moment the shadows around her deepened, as if the night itself conspired to hide her from view. "They are coming for you. They've seen you." My blood ran cold. Who were they? Just then my phone vibrated again, jolting me from the trance. The same unknown number flashed on the screen. I hesitated, glancing back at the girl, who remained motionless, her gaze locked on me. As I read the message, my breath hitched in my throat. "Get out! Now!" Panic surged within me. I turned to run, but I felt something pull at my ankle, tethering me to the ground. "Don't!" the girl shouted, her voice laced with urgency. "You have to listen." But I couldn't hear her anymore. I stumbled backward, the weight of dread pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket. My heart raced as I sprinted towards the exit of the park, the world around me spinning. Each step echoed in my ears, my pulse pounding like a drum. I could feel the shadows shifting behind me, an unseen presence lurking just beyond my sight. I glanced back. The girl had vanished. Running, I reached the street, the familiar neighborhood lights flickering on. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. As I turned to head home, an icy gust whipped through the air, and I heard laughter, low and unnerving, reverberating through the trees. It was a sound I couldn't place, yet it felt sinister, echoing my deepest fears. I burst through the front door, my heart still racing. "Jason!" I yelled, my voice breaking. He came out of his room, a bewildered look on his face. "What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." I don't know," I stammered, trying to catch my breath. I explained about the text and the girl, my voice trembling, as I recounted the haunting encounter. "Maybe it was just a prank," he suggested, though his brow furrowed in concern. But I knew it wasn't just a prank. The terror I felt was too real, too visceral. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the events over and over. My mind raced with questions. Who was she? What did she mean by they? And most hauntingly, why had she looked at me like that? In the days that followed, the unease settled in like a thick fog. I found myself glancing over my shoulder, convinced that someone or something was watching me. My phone buzzed sporadically, but each time it was just a spam message or an unknown number. I even tried to forget the girl, but my mind wouldn't let me. Then one evening, as I sat on the porch with Jason, something caught my eye. The park. It was there, nestled in the distance, dark and foreboding. A thought flickered through my mind. I had to go back. "Are you crazy?" Jason said when I broached the idea. "You can't go back there. What if she's still there?" "I have to know," I replied, determination hardening my resolve. Jason rolled his eyes. but I could see the concern etched on his face. That night, I took my flashlight and made my way back to the park. The air was thick with anticipation, and the shadows felt alive as I stepped onto the familiar yet haunting ground. I walked toward the swing set, the oppressive darkness swallowing me whole. As I reached the spot where I had seen her last, I felt something shift in the air. A whisper. "Help me!" It was faint, but clear, echoing around me like a distant call. My heart raced, and I turned the beam of my flashlight into the depths of the park, chasing the sound. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice wavering. Then I saw her again, the girl, emerging from the depths of the trees. "You came back," she said, her voice softer, almost relieved. "You shouldn't have, but I'm glad you did." "Why? What do you want from me?" I asked, fear gripping my throat. "They're coming for you," she repeated, stepping closer. "You need to understand what you've unleashed." I opened my mouth to respond, but laughter erupted around us, a chilling chorus that surrounded me, pressing in from all sides. My heart sank as I realized it wasn't just her. Shadows began to emerge, shapes twisting in the darkness, their forms indistinct but undeniably menacing. I turned to run, but the shadows enveloped me, and everything went dark. I couldn't tell if I was moving or standing still, my body frozen in place. The last thing I heard was a whisper that cut through the chaos. "You shouldn't have come back." I woke up in my bed, drenched in sweat, the morning light streaming through the window. Was it all a dream? I glanced at my phone. No messages, just the silence of an ordinary day. But as I looked out the window, I realized the park was gone. Where it once stood was now an empty lot, filled with weeds and debris. I don't know what happened that night, nor do I know what I truly encountered. But every time I see someone glance at me with hollow eyes, I remember the girl and the laughter that chased me. The fear that something unseen still lurks nearby will never truly leave me. I may never understand what happened, but I know one thing. There are forces in this world, Matit, and beyond, that we can't comprehend. And sometimes, the darkness doesn't just stay in the shadows, it comes for you when you least expect it. It all started with a simple text message. "Raphael, you there? I need to show you something." The message was from my old friend, Tiago, someone I hadn't heard from in years. We had grown up together in the outskirts of São Paulo, roaming the streets until the early hours, but life pulled us in different directions. I felt a rush of nostalgia, but also a slight unease. It was one of those late October nights when the air was thick with an unsettling chill. I decided to reply, "What is it? Where are you?" After a few agonizing minutes, the reply finally came. "Meet me at the old factory near the river. Trust me, you'll want to see this." My heart raced. The old factory had been abandoned for years, a place we used to dare each other to enter. But here I was, nearly drawn in by curiosity, an instinct that always led me into trouble. The streets outside were eerily quiet, the kind of silence that felt wrong. As I walked towards the factory, I noticed how the moonlight illuminated the cracked pavement, casting long, exaggerated shadows. "It's just the wind," I reassured myself, as a chill ran down my spine. I could hear the faint sound of rustling leaves, but my mind played tricks on me, whispering that I was being followed. I quickened my pace. Arriving at the factory, I hesitated before crossing the threshold. The iron door creaked open, protesting my intrusion. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of mildew and rust. It felt like stepping back in time. The remnants of old machinery loomed like forgotten giants in the darkness, their silhouettes barely visible against the faint moonlight filtering through broken windows. "Tiago!" I called out, my voice echoing in the vast emptiness. No answer. I felt the weight of the darkness pressing against me, and with each step deeper into the factory, my heart pounded louder. "This is stupid," I whispered to myself. "You should just leave." But something compelled me to stay, a curiosity entwined with an inexplicable sense of dread. Suddenly, I heard a soft whispering, a sound so subtle that it could have been the wind. "Raphael, come." My breath caught in my throat. I looked around, scanning the shadows, thinking it was just my mind playing tricks again. "Tiago!" I shouted again, desperation creeping into my voice. Then, right as I was about to turn and leave, I saw a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye. I turned, and there he was, Tiago, standing near the old assembly line, but something felt off. His eyes were wide, pupils dilated, and his skin had an unnatural pallor. "You came," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What's going on? Are you all right?" I asked, stepping closer. "I found something I shouldn't have," he said, his gaze darting around as if he were expecting someone or something else to appear. "What do you mean?" I urged, feeling a sense of urgency. He motioned for me to come closer. As I approached, he lifted a dusty old box he had been hiding behind a rusted machine. The box was locked, but the rust was so thick that it looked as if it hadn't been touched in years. "I don't know what's inside, but I can feel it. It's powerful." "Maybe we should just leave it," I suggested, an uneasy feeling settling in the pit of my stomach. "No, you don't understand. I need you to help me open it," he insisted, his voice rising with a hint of panic. The moment I touched the box, I felt the temperature drop, a cold wave washing over me, leaving goosebumps on my arms. "Tiago, we shouldn't—" He interrupted me, eyes wide. "Don't you feel it? It's calling to us." I hesitated, but curiosity triumphed over fear. Together we forced the lock open, and the box creaked like a living thing as we lifted the lid. Inside lay an old book, its cover worn and pages yellowed. The title was indecipherable, appearing as if it had been written in a language lost to time. The moment the book was opened, the factory seemed to shift. The shadows danced around us, swirling and twisting as if alive. "What did we do?" I stammered, pulling back. But it was too late. The air grew thick, suffocating, and the whispering intensified, drowning out my thoughts. "Raphael, Tiago, come play." The voices were soft, yet insistent, echoing off the walls and wrapping around us like a fog. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing Tiago by the arm. But as we turned to escape, the shadows coalesced into figures, dark, indistinct shapes that seemed to reach for us. My heart raced as I felt an icy grip on my ankle, pulling me down. "Help!" I screamed, struggling against the unseen force. Tiago was already halfway to the exit, his face pale with terror, but he hesitated, looking back at me. "I can't leave you." "Go!" I shouted, desperation flooding my voice. In that moment, I felt the weight of the shadows pressing in, whispering things I couldn't understand. The last thing I saw was Tiago's figure retreating into the darkness, the door slamming shut behind him. I was alone now, surrounded by the cacophony of whispers, an orchestra of despair and despairing laughter. "You shouldn't have come here," they taunted. I could feel my sanity slipping away, the edges of my vision blurring, and just as I thought I might lose myself completely, everything went dark. When I finally awoke, the sun was rising, and I was lying outside the factory's entrance. My mind was clouded, confusion gripping me as I scrambled to my feet. "Tiago!" I called, my voice hoarse. But there was no response, only the echo of my own voice fading into the morning air. I stumbled back towards the city, my heart thudding in my chest. The factory loomed behind me, a dark silhouette against the dawn, and as I turned to look one last time, I saw something at the window. A figure staring back, its face obscured by shadows. I couldn't tell if it was Tiago or something far worse. The fear settled deep in my bones, a haunting reminder of the night's horrors. And even now, sometimes, I receive a message late at night. "Raphael, help me." The screen glows ominously in the dark, and I wonder if I should respond. I'd always been a bit of a loner, more comfortable with my books than with people. But that night I found myself at the edge of the neighborhood park, gripping my phone tightly, the glow from the screen illuminating my anxious face. It was a Friday night, and I had just received a text from my childhood friend Danny, inviting me to meet him in the park. He had moved away a couple of years back, but I could still recognize his number. I felt a rush of excitement mixed with confusion. How was he back in town without telling me? I hesitated for a moment. The park, bathed in moonlight, looked deceptively inviting, but I couldn't shake the chill that crept up my spine. It was eerily quiet, the usual rustle of nocturnal critters replaced by an unsettling silence. Still, I couldn't ignore the flutter of nostalgia that pulled me to the familiar place where we spent countless days playing. "Hey, I'm here!" I texted back, barely containing my excitement. There was no immediate response. After a minute, I felt a vibration in my pocket. My heart raced as I read the new message. "Good, you'll find me at the old swing set." The old swing set? It had been years since I'd seen it. Overgrown and rusted, the swings had been deemed unsafe for children long ago. A sense of unease settled in my stomach, yet the thought of seeing Danny spurred me forward. I walked deeper into the park, my shoes crunching on the gravel path, the sound echoing in the stillness. As I approached the swing set, memories flooded back. Danny's laughter, the games we played, and our promises to always stay friends. But as I got closer, I felt a strange sensation, as if the air grew heavier, pressing against my chest. I stopped, looking around. The park felt different than I remembered. The trees loomed larger, shadows elongated in bizarre shapes, and the swings creaked, though there was no wind. "Danny!" I called out, my voice breaking through the thick silence. "Are you here?" I felt ridiculous talking to the night, but it was the only way to combat the growing sense of isolation. Just then I caught a glimpse of something, or someone, moving in the shadows near the swings. My heart thumped harder in my chest as a figure emerged. It wasn't Danny. A woman stood there, dressed in a tattered white dress that fluttered as if it were alive. Her hair cascaded down her back like a dark waterfall, and her face was obscured by a veil. I felt a chill run down my spine. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Who are you?" I stammered, stepping back instinctively. "I'm waiting for him," she said, her voice laced with anguish. "He promised he'd come for me." I wanted to run, but I was rooted to the spot, a mixture of fear and curiosity keeping me captive. "What happened to you?" She stepped forward, the moon illuminating her face, and I gasped. Her eyes were hollow, deep sockets that seemed to look right through me. "He took me," she said, her voice trembling. "And now I can't leave." Panic surged through me. I stumbled back, glancing around as if searching for an escape. The swing creaked again, this time louder, as if in response to my fear. My phone buzzed in my pocket, breaking the tension. I pulled it out, my hands shaking. A new message flashed on the screen. "Don't trust her." Who was sending this? I looked back at the woman, but she was gone, vanished like smoke in the night. "Danny!" I shouted, hoping against hope that he was still here. The oppressive silence was my only answer. I turned to leave, but my feet felt heavy, as if they were being pulled back toward the swing set. Suddenly I felt a sharp pain in my chest, and I gasped, clutching at my shirt. It felt as if something was gripping my heart. I staggered forward, my vision blurring as a wave of dizziness washed over me. "Help me!" The woman's voice echoed in my mind, mingling with my own frantic thoughts. "Find him! No, no, no!" I cried, trying to shake it off. I had to get out of here. I turned to run, but the shadows seemed to split apart, forming a barrier that blocked my path. I was trapped. In the distance, I saw a flicker of light. It was a street lamp at the park's entrance, my only way out. Gathering every ounce of strength, I pushed through the shadows, the air thickening with each step. The swing set swayed behind me, the sound haunting and ominous. "Danny!" I screamed, hoping he would hear me. "Where are you?" But all I got was echoes, my voice bouncing off the trees, sounding disembodied and distant. As I neared the light, I felt the weight lift slightly, the grips on my heart easing, but the sense of dread lingered. Finally breaking free from the darkness, I stumbled into the light. I collapsed at the foot of the street lamp, gasping for breath. My phone buzzed again, and I hesitated before looking at it. "You shouldn't have come," it read. A shiver ran down my spine. I glanced back, the park now shrouded in shadows. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. I turned to run home, adrenaline flooding my veins. As I sprinted away, the chilling laughter of a child echoed behind me, lingering in the air like a haunting melody. When I finally reached my home, I slammed the door shut, locking it behind me. I leaned against it, panting, my heart racing. The phone buzzed once more, but I ignored it. I was safe, I told myself, even as the shadows outside danced on my walls. The next day, I tried to forget about the woman and the swing set. I convinced myself it was just a bad dream. But as the sun set that evening, I received a notification, a news alert about a missing persons case in the area. A girl named Amelia had disappeared years ago, last seen at the park. The article included a photo. I dropped my phone, a sinking feeling in my stomach, as I realized the woman wasn't just a figment of my imagination. She was a ghost trapped in that cursed place, waiting for someone to answer her cries. And I knew deep down that the park would always call to me, a siren song drawing me back into its web of dark memories. So what do you think? Have you ever experienced anything spooky like that? Share your stories in the comments. I love hearing about your creepy encounters. If you enjoyed the chills in this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on our next chilling tale. Until next time, if you dare to return.